Hi, my name is Andy Torres. I'm the director at the American Embassy School. I'm very happy to see everyone here at this second recording of our week about our AES middle school programs coming up here for the month of August as we move into our online learning mode starting on August 4. I want to spend a little bit of time talking up to you about our expectations for this webinar. We wish to answer as many questions as you possibly can provide to us during this session. Your questions will be answered in the order they are received as best we possibly can by our team during the webinar, and then also we'll do some live question and answer at the end. We ask if you submit questions in writing to do so via the question and answer button at the bottom of the screen. Here's a screenshot that I did earlier for the elementary session. Our team will be answering those ongoing. We may hold off on answering some questions that come forward as we may want to do those live, but we'll do our best to answer most of them in writing. I do want to point out that we also are providing a recording of all these webinars on our website. And so you can go to the AES website link shown at the top of the screen. And you can also just go and look for our COVID-19 page where they're stored. We have all of our webinars all the way back to when we started doing these in early July. And this one will also be recorded and posted on the same website later on this week. As we move into this next phase of our educational programs at AES, particularly in the middle school, we want to make sure that you understand our belief that all of our children are important, that they are known, and that their intrinsic value, their safety, their trust, and their respect are very, very close to our professional hearts. I want to make sure that all members of our community have an opportunity to flourish, to have an amazingly meaningful learning experience as we move into these early days of our school year this year. As unusual as it may be, I believe we're going to have an amazing school year, one which every child is going to reach their potential and become the best versions of themselves they possibly can be. And with that, I want to pass this over to our middle school principal, Anthea Clifton, and she can tell you about the programs for our middle school moving forward. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to the middle school pre-opening webinar. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to just introduce the team and then we'll get on with it. So I'm Anthea Clifton, I'm the middle school principal, and I'd like to welcome you to a new school year.
Hi everyone, my name's Serena McMahon. I'm the middle school assistant principal, and I can't wait to get back and finally get everyone on campus together. But until then, I'm confident we're going to have a great time.
Hi, I'm Maureen. Oh, curses.
Hi everyone. Sorry. My name is Carly Anderson, and I will be the middle school counselor this year. I'm so excited to be joining the middle school, and I can't wait to meet you all soon. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Maureen Cullen, and I'm the middle school technology coordinator. Really excited about the start of the school year and looking forward to meeting everyone.
Okay, now that you've met the team, I'd like to just go over today's agenda. Primarily, we're going to focus on our phase one or our online learning and share a little bit about our plans for that in the coming weeks, specifically around the learning, structure of lessons, and the general schedule. We'd like to share a little bit around our communication plan for students and for parents and where you can access information. Importantly, relationships in a distant environment is really important, and we want to talk a bit about how we're working to build community even under these sorts of situations. We have counselors to support, and they'll share a little bit about their role. We'll talk briefly about technology and the basic expectations and how you can access that, and then just generally some upcoming dates and how we can set the year off and expectations for all of us as we launch into a new year. So without further ado, let's move on. We've called it COVID learning at AES, but really what we're trying to do is be very intentional and specific that the learning that we are talking about as we open this school year is really about a very unique situation that we find ourselves in, and how we are all going to work together to make this the best possible experience it can. We know, for those of you that were with us last year, we know that this was a challenging time, and it was a challenging time for schools around the world. We moved very quickly to a distance or online learning structure. Institutions, the schools in NISA, the schools in India, we all shared our journey. The schools in Asia, we shared our journey, and we actually learned from each other. And that's been really important. It's been very, very reassuring in some ways to hear of the similar challenges that parents, students, teachers, the leadership teams have all faced. And so we work together, and we continue to work with these schools. We also collected feedback. We collected feedback from students. We collected it from teachers and from parents. And we learned in that process that our community is incredibly diverse. Diverse in where we were, diverse in the needs that we have, and the diverse in experiences and expectations around learning. And we also look to the experts in the fields of psychology, Dr. Sean Truman being one of them, and educational experts that have been quickly researching on some of the best approaches that we could be taking. And all of this has helped shape the quality learning environment that we are attempting to create this school year. So let's take a little look at the upcoming weeks generally that we are expecting to launch into. We know that we're going to start in phase 1 of an online learning environment. This means that all instruction will be primarily done online through both asynchronous and synchronous. Asynchronous being times where students are not necessarily in front of their computer, but they are still learning, or their laptop. They're still learning. We use asynchronous learning almost like a flipped classroom, if you've heard of that. It's to introduce new ideas. It's to create a hook. It could be a video. It could be reading something. It could be listening to a pre-recorded thing a teacher or someone shared. The idea, though, is that students can draft and they can work without being in front of a screen. There are, however, times where we need some synchronous learning. And synchronous learning is fantastic for things like building community and building connections and building relationships, because we know that learning is also social. And the one thing that's come through is that that's probably one of the key things. Kids can learn through asynchronous learning, but they need the synchronous component to make sense of their learning. Teachers can provide feedback. Teachers work with small groups, and last year we had a number of small group instructions. We created breakout rooms to get feedback, and students could learn from each other, and teachers also were part of those breakout rooms. Sometimes we also had teaching assistants in the breakout rooms, and sometimes we added in some of our EAL and learning support teachers. And so we have a lot of adults that can help with this environment. So we definitely will have those two environments, and we will be ensuring that we use those very intentionally. The other part is phase 2 as we begin to move on campus. And while we don't have a set date where we will begin to move back on campus, we hope that it's coming in the next few weeks. We also know that school learning will need to be online as well, because we're going to have some students who either can't attend campus, and we have students who aren't yet in Delhi. And so what we need to ensure as a community is that we make this seamless. One thing middle schoolers do not need is constant changes to schedules, routines, and expectations. There's enough uncertainty out there. And so it's very, very important that the learning we begin online is the learning we continue into what we're calling sort of that hybrid connected campus learning. And so that means much of the structures around teachers, around the synchronous and asynchronous, etc., will look and feel very, very similar for our students, with the added bonus of more social connections and more ability to move in a broader space. And then as we become more comfortable with that, it will expand. As we get closer to that, we will share some more details with you. Today, we want to focus primarily on some of the bigger structures that we're going to begin the year with. One being the weekly schedule. Now, if you're an experienced middle school parent from AES, you know that we have a block schedule, which means that we have extended blocks of time and we rotate. So students have 4 classes each day, and over the period, over 2 days, they have 8 classes, and that's basically their entire schedule. So they have 8 classes in general. So we were going to continue with that. We're just adjusting the times a little bit, okay? We also have a period in the day where we have FIR and advisory, free, uninterrupted reading or advisory, or our assemblies. So we'll have a modified version of that. So you can see on the screen there, for example, Monday is 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the first 4 classes, and the next day is the other 4 classes. You'll notice that Wednesday has advisory and a big grey band in it. That does not mean no learning's happening. That is just, we're calling it No New Work Wednesday. What that will mean is that we will have an advisory time in the morning, and students will connect with their advisor. They'll review their schedule for the day. It's a chance to check in and say, what work do you still need to do? What teachers do you need to connect with? Are there any groups you need to work in? Check on their roster in terms of when they'll be reading, practicing an instrument, what exercise they might get. So basically they'll have an adult check-in, and then they may have times where they work with a teacher during the day, but essentially it's a chance to consolidate the learning they've had in the first 2 days. So it's not a day where they're not engaged in learning, it's just going to look different. And the feedback we received last year is that students appreciate it when they did have those gaps. And so we're just building that in intentionally. And that's in line with the elementary and the high school. This will help also to keep a really solid structure and a solid routine, so that as students transfer back onto campus, we're going to try and maintain something similar and keep that similar look and feel, so that children have boundaries and routines and we minimize disruption. That is the biggest, I guess, challenge actually to learning, is constant disruption. So if we can keep this feeling similar, then they will feel much more comfortable and they'll feel much more confident if we keep the same systems and tech tools, etc., in place for them. So let's just take a quick look at the learning that we'll be structuring in the middle school in the coming weeks and beyond. Again, for parents who were here last year in the middle school, the structure of the lessons will look very similar. We've made a few adjustments, but there are many of you that are new, and we've got lots of 6th grade parents. So let's just take a little look at this for a minute. We have 4 40-minute lessons each day. We're actually going to start with 30-minute classes. What we found last year is it actually takes a little time, and we know this at the beginning of the year, how tired children get, to build stamina for learning and stamina for this type of environment. And children have been on break. I mean, teachers are, everyone finds it tough the first few weeks. So we are going to start with 30-minute lessons. What that means is if they have a synchronous class, they might have a 30-minute synchronous class with a teacher, or they might receive the instructions, they might have a mini lesson and a welcome, and then there's about 20 or 30 minutes of work that they will do. And that will be very intentionally built into their day. And it will be on the days that they would normally have those classes if they were on campus. So that will look and feel the same, it's just the classes will be shortened. When there's a scheduled synchronous class, it's something on Zoom, it will be during regular school days in Delhi, so India Standard Time. That's challenging for our families who are not in Delhi. So we record these sessions and students can watch them, okay? But it's important that we have some kind of structured learning through the day, because otherwise it gets very confusing when you have different teachers and people trying to create different schedules. So to keep it simple, we follow our regular schedule and we follow it on India Standard Time. All lessons will be designed for online learning. So if you're not in Delhi, no problem. It's designed that your child can still continue to stay connected to AES. All learning experiences align with curriculum guidelines and standards. In other words, what we are doing and what we have been doing is working with our teams and with consultants to identify what are the absolutely critical key components to learning. And those things will be built, all the learning will be built around that. And then all tasks related to learning will be embedded in our curriculum. So We are still sticking with the learning that we would expect for a 6th grader or a 7th grader or an 8th grader. And that teachers will provide feedback to students. Now, feedback to students can look like comments on work that's submitted, as they might do if they were in a classroom. Feedback could be some one-on-one Zoom sessions. Often it'll be in small groups. Peer-to-peer feedback is very, very important, either in the classroom or online. It's another very effective tool. So there will be consultations, small groups. There'll be some recorded. Teachers might give just a voiceover recording, but there is an opportunity for students to get feedback. And that's important because some students may not be able to attend the synchronous lessons. And so we're looking for ways for teachers to connect outside of also the class time, particularly for students who aren't in the DELI time, but for all students, so that they can make sure they can clarify their questions, and that they don't get stuck because they don't know what step to take next. And so we'll be building that in over the coming weeks. Each class in the middle school, no matter what class it is, whether it's dance, drama, music, math, science, every class has an outline. And we developed this last year to help parents and students anticipate the learning. Every lesson will have a welcome. There will be a why. Why am I learning this? To give it context. What am I learning about today? In other words, what should I be getting better at today? How will I learn and demonstrate my learning? So that might be watching, there might be a YouTube video, or there might be a reading, or there might be a breakout room. And then how will I demonstrate that? I might have to submit a reflection. I might have a piece of writing that I'm working on. And then it'll also say when I have to turn it in. And so each class, there'll usually be something small to submit, but they may be working on a piece that's bigger than that they are each class working on, and that might be turned in 2 or 3 weeks' time. But teachers will scaffold that. They will not just hand them a thing and say, go away, work on this. They will break it down into smaller chunks, because we know that in online learning, we need to be very intentional and break learning down even more than we do in the classroom. And the other part that we ask all teachers to include is a next lesson. And the reason we do that is so that you can see, and your child can see, whether or not they need to be on Zoom, or whether it's an asynchronous class where they'll be working on something to submit online. If it's a Zoom class, a synchronous class, the teacher will include the link to Zoom. And they will also include that in a calendar invitation. Now, Serena's going to talk she's going to talk a little more specifically around the learning and the communication, and she'll elaborate a bit more on this and where you're going to find this information.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about focusing on the learning and the communication of that learning, particularly for the children and also for you. So it's important that you understand that we'll have a number of different portals that we'll be using and platforms that we'll be using to help the children and to help you understand all the learning that's going on. So the first one, which is a new one for anyone that's returning for the year, is we're going to have on the student website, we're going to have a section that is specifically for online learning, and in that we will have different sites for different subjects. So your child and you will be able to go and have a look at a specific subject on the day, and when they go there, they will see an outline of everything they're going to learn through the week. They will see a list of what lessons are synchronous and what lessons aren't synchronous. They will see you'll be able to click on a link that will tell you the outline for all the lessons. So all that information will be centralized. And part of the reason we did that was because the feedback we got after continuous learning was that it got a little bit hard, and there was a lot of content that was showing up in Google Classroom, and it was a bit too challenging. We'll still be using Google Classroom. It's still a very important part of the middle school, and that will be where the teachers will share all the resources that the children will need for their subjects, and it's also where the children will submit all their work. So for any work that they have to submit, they will do it through Google Classroom so that it gets where it has to go to, and we can keep track of it for them. We'll also be using Google Calendar, which we've always used, and that's going to be helpful for the children to be tracking what subjects they have at what day, on what days, and also it'll be where we'll see the calendar invites for the Zoom lessons that are synchronous. So again, it'll be another spot where they'll be able to find that information and they'll be able to use that. And you'll be able to see your children's calendars as well, which will be helpful. Now, any communication that'll be happening between the children and the teachers, any individual feedback or anything like that that they need, most of that will be done through emails. We're trying to really cut back how many emails the children are getting so that they're not overwhelmed, but we will be using emails. So it's important that they still check their email regularly in case a teacher is trying to communicate with them one-on-one outside of Google Classroom. Now, if anyone is sitting there and is starting to panic thinking, my child's only just joined the school or my child's just come up from grade 5 and what if they don't know how to use all these things? Please understand we've got that covered. For our first week of learning, each subject will focus on one of those platforms and they will spend time as part of the lessons making sure the children are comfortable with each and every platform that we're most likely to use, those major ones. If there's a specific one for a subject, they will look after that, but we'll have general ones. We'll make sure that everyone can email. We'll make sure that everyone is comfortable using Google Slides. We'll make sure that everyone is comfortable understanding what their calendar looks like and obviously what the website looks like as well. So we will spend time making sure that your children are comfortable with those platforms and are comfortable with what our expectations are as a middle school so that then they can start their learning and the curriculum and be comfortable with all the things that we're going to ask of them. So we're quite comfortable that they'll be able to do that. Okay, what you can see here is an example of what that site's going to look like, the new part that we're doing. So they'll go to the student website and then they'll be able to look up a subject. This one's a fake one for the grade 6 dance class. And you'll see there'll be a calendar there where you can see the different different lessons on the different days. You'll be able to see if the lesson's meant to be synchronous or asynchronous, and it'll be clearly put there for you. You can see on the right-hand side that it very clearly shows that there's a checklist, and every week that checklist will be updated with any tasks that are required for that subject. So the children will be able to go through each of their subjects and make sure they've reached all those tasks. And it could be that one day they didn't have technology, or one day they were traveling, or whatever it is. They'll be able to go back and make sure that they can catch up on those things so that they can keep track of where they're at. The other part, as we mentioned, and as Anthea mentioned earlier, is each lesson will have that lesson outline. And that will be at the bottom of the list there. You can see it down there in that bottom circle. And as Anthea mentioned, it will tell you the who, why we're learning it. Middle schoolers need to know why. They don't do anything unless they know why. So that's an important part with their learning, that they understand how it's relevant to them and how it's relevant to the big pictures of what we're trying to achieve. So we'll go through that. So that's an example, and it makes it easier for you as parents supporting your children to see what's going on, and it helps the children follow along as well. So that's how we're going to be communicating the learning. It seems like a lot, but I promise they will get it way faster than the rest of us ever would. And I'm going to pass it on to Carly now, and she's going to talk about the other major thing that's really important at the start of the year, which is all our relationships.
Thank you, Serena. So making connections and building relationships in the middle school is a top priority, and it's of the utmost importance. Currently, we have various systems in place for students to do this. Our peer ambassadors are students who are trained and supervised to support our new students so they feel welcome and included in the community. Our advisory program includes a small group of students and an advisor who meet regularly. This is an opportunity for students to build connections with peers as well as another adult in the community. Our middle school teachers are extremely excited to be meeting all of the new students. Please reach out to them for support. As well as the middle school counselors. We're here to provide individual, group, and class-wide services for students and to create a safe space, an additional safe space for students to really feel like they can express themselves and also come to someone if they ever need anything. Also, the students who will be returning are great people to go to for our new students, and hopefully students reach out to them and introduce themselves and try to build connections and friendships within the classroom. We really would like for students to try their best to advocate for themselves if they are in need of support. So please reach out to someone via email, phone, or Zoom if there's anything that you need. Students should be encouraged to reach out to their friends for lunch dates and to invite new and returning students to build relationships that way. Parents, please feel free to reach out with any questions or concerns. We're here to support you as well. And please just, be honest if your student is having difficulty, if they're having trouble making new friends, fitting in, if they need additional support in any way, please know that we are here to support them and to support you as well. There are various supports available, including EAL and learning support services. If your child has been receiving EAL and learning support in the past, someone will be reaching out to them soon in order to set up an individual meeting time with the family. So please know that that will be happening very soon. In regards to who to contact for what, if there are any curriculum questions, such as a student not understanding the task, where to find lessons, or if you're concerned with your child's understanding of the material, please reach out to the specific teacher for that. In regards to well-being, if students are feeling overwhelmed, having issues with friends, if you feel like your child isn't developing a steady routine, or just isn't feeling comfortable or confident, being in a new school and new classes, please reach out to me. I'm here to support all of you. So, I encourage you to contact me for any questions or concerns. General questions, please contact the MS office. This could be things such as, how to join with a certain club, if you're interested in any after-school activities, or questions related to health. And then tech questions such as iPads not working, using applications, uploading videos, or anything along those lines, please reach out to Maureen.
Hey, thanks, Carly. We are busy at school getting iPads ready. And hopefully those of you who are in Delhi will be able to stop by the school and pick up your iPads. We will get that plan out to you so that you know when would be a time to come by. If you are out of Delhi and have an iPad, we are happy to enroll that iPad into our system. If not, any device will work, a laptop, an iPad, but anything that can get to the internet and get to a web browser will allow you to complete work that you need to complete in these first few weeks as you make your way to Delhi. The iPad is a great device, and we have found lots of success in ways in connecting with kids and the kids connecting with each other, and choice and collaboration and all of this stuff. And we also are very cognizant of the fact that screen time is a concern. So we are hoping to partner with you so that you know that we have no expectation that your child is going to be on a screen all day long. And if you find that they are on the screen all day long and they're telling you it's because of school, please do reach out to the teacher, to myself, to the counselor, to the middle school office, so that we can partner with you and help you kind of come up with some type of solution. We also highly recommend commonsense.org. It's an organization that works with families and educators to not only give us advice on what apps kids should be using and at what age. It also gives advice on movies and music and a whole myriad of things that have to do with technology, and advice on, just managing the iPad when it comes into your home. So we highly recommend that you check out that website. And, and again, we're moving into a section now about partnering with you. And we, of course, in the tech office would be happy as well to partner with you. And over to Anthea.
Thank you, Maureen. The last part of this is to talk a little bit about how we can get the most of our partnership with parents and with students. And with that, I'd like to take a look at the role of the students and the role of the parents. So we've shared a little bit about the big picture thinking and what we're putting in place from the middle school side of things. But we need you and we need your child to play a very active role. And this isn't just when we're online. This is actually, we ask the same when we're in person. So we thought we'd outline this at the beginning of the year, just so that it helps to be clear on expectations. And in case you're wondering, as a parent, what can I do? What should I be looking for? So we'll be sharing this with students. But we expect students to attend all synchronous classes if it is in their time zone. And if it's in their time zone means if they are mostly in Australia, Asia, India, and a little beyond, as long as it's within reasonable hours. Now that's tricky, but we do not want children up at 1 or 2 in the morning. We do not even want children online at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. That is not healthy. And so we know that not everyone can attend synchronous. But if you're in a time zone, and we'll work on that with students, then we expect them to be present in those classes. And that's important for our community. We expect students who can't be present, and we know that's not always possible, to actually watch the recorded classes so that they know what's there. One thing we're asking teachers to do is to record their face and their voice and an instruction every single class. And so it is important that students access that. Students engage in all Zoom classes, complete assigned AES learning. And we know for some people last year that was a little confusing, so we want to be really clear that even when we're online, there's learning to be done. Our teachers remain available for help. And so we want students, just like they would if they're in person, to seek help from teachers, and they'll have a chance to ask for help, reach out to their teachers, and set up times to meet. And we found last year that worked particularly successfully as we got into the routine and students and teachers worked out how to make those connections. We also want students to do their very best. Just because we're not in a classroom doesn't mean that the learning and what we do isn't important, and the effort we put in is what we'll get out of it. So we want everyone to be set up for success when we come back to school. And so staying on pace with everyone and staying engaged is really important. So doing their best. And ultimately, we need students to find balance between screen time and other activities. And there'll be times when we really want students to be learning, but not with their iPad or their laptop in front of them. Our advisors, or the children's advisors, the teachers, we will be working with your child to help them find balance. But they might need, and I say they probably will need, your support. After all, they are children. Children need boundaries, and they need clear boundaries and clear expectations. So we need parents to actually help by providing a supportive environment. And that can look like just being encouraging. All right, we don't want the battle to fall on you. And if you're struggling with that, you should reach out to us. But provide that supportive environment, provide a learning space. And now it's not possible necessarily that can be in a public space, because we know that you may have a number of children trying to learn at home and they might be on Zoom. But I think a structured space, a desk in a bedroom or another part of the house, but a place where they can sit and they can work with minimal distractions. I would say if they're in their bedroom, maybe having a door open, but somehow that it can be somewhat monitored. Usually lying on a bed isn't the best option because I don't think it sets up a good structure for actually working. But we also know that families are in different places and confined spaces right now. So we know that you'll do the best you can, but please encourage your child and provide them with a structured space. Support your child to attend Zoom sessions. Ultimately, it's their responsibility. For sixth graders, this is going to take a little bit of getting used to. They have greater responsibility, but we notice even in the middle school when we're face-to-face, sixth graders step up real fast when we set a high bar of expectations. And we'll have teachers in the first few days helping them to get used to that. but just help them check their calendars, help them know when they need to be online, help them complete their assigned learning. And it can just be, what did you learn today? What do you need to get done? And you've seen ways in which you can get that information fairly easily by looking at the site. And then reach out to your child's teacher when you have questions. All right, there's no need to worry and wonder about things. Please reach out to the teacher if you've noticed that your child is taking a really long time to get things done. That shouldn't happen. Where you know what we're aiming for. When we say 30 minutes to start with, some children will take an hour or an hour and a half, and some children might take 15 minutes. We don't want them taking an hour and a half. Okay, so please monitor that and give it a little time. They may not necessarily work out how much time it takes them to get things done straight away. So just monitor it a bit as you can and check in with them. But certainly reach out if after a couple of weeks it seems like it's not going the way you think it maybe should. With that, one thing we want to continue doing is, along with all of the communication, along with your partnership, we will continue our weekly email updates on a Friday. In our email updates, we celebrate learning, we share our community experiences, and we also include any updates or reminders or links to things that we may have included in the past. And that's really just to help give a one-stop summary shop for the week, and to minimize too many emails going between teachers and parents, and that can be overwhelming when you have multiple children. A couple of things about our upcoming dates: August 3, what to expect the first week, and August 4, the first day of school. Prior to the first day of school, we typically make student schedules available, and this year will be no different. Power School should be open to middle school students for them to log in and see their schedules of their assigned classes and teachers. All students will receive instructions on August 3, the day before school begins. Our advisory sessions on August 4 will be focused around helping students connect. So it'll be very important that your child is part of advisory, if they can be at all possible, to join on August 4, because this is where we'll not only start to build community, we will also begin that tech orientation. And the tech orientation will ensure that students are able to access their learning. They know where to go, they know how to get information, and we'll also be teaching them actually how to use the different tech tools that we use in the middle school. And that'll take us a couple of weeks at least to get that up and running. So please look for those pieces of information on August 3. Your child should receive some information from a teacher. So welcome to school year 2021. AES is known for its community values, and this year is no different. Our program and practices are aimed at providing quality learning, supporting students, and building community. We have families with a wide variety of needs, and no one model fits all of our community. And our community is at the moment spread throughout the world. So knowing the diversity that exists within our community, I ask we begin our year not assuming that what suits one child suits all children. If we learned anything from last school year, we learned that there were children who thrived in an online learning environment, and there were children who found it a real challenge. And what we learned is how to try and support both ends of that spectrum. So please bear that in mind as we shape our program. Strong communities come together. Look for the positives, and they're solution focused. At this point, I want to thank the parent community for placing your trust in us. We do indeed carry a heavy responsibility. All our teachers are committed to making the year ahead a strong one. Throughout the year, whether online or face-to-face, we will grow and evolve together. If you're concerned about your child or just have a question, please reach out to the middle school. You can write to me, Serena, a counselor. If it's a general question, if it's specific, write to a teacher. We want to get you the information you need to avoid any confusion or stress, because you're the best person to support your child. I invite you to join us in partnership as we set out on this new journey. At this point, we're going to move to our question and answer. As Andy said earlier, please remember 1 question per post. It means that we can better answer your questions. And we're going to try and get you the answers that you need as quickly as we can. So we're going to turn over to the Q&A session.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to answer the question about new students building connections in the middle school. So we are very excited for all new students to be joining us this year. Student ambassadors will be reaching out to new students soon. And also, as a counselor, I want to make sure every child and family feels supported, especially being new. So I will be reaching out to all new students. You can also reach out to me if you have any social emotional concerns. I'm here to help, so I look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Carly. I'd like to just answer one of the questions around notifications on synchronous learning. Last year, the expectation for the middle school was that synchronous classes would have a 48-hour notification. This year, we're going to be posting those at the beginning of the week so that you can see what synchronous sessions will be coming up for the week. They will not only be in the Google site, they will also be, as they were last year, if you're a parent in the middle school last year, they were also shared in Google Calendar so children can see the information in two places, and you can also help them map out their week because it'll be in that Google site that you'll be able to access. I'm also going to say, Serena, did I get that right? Is there anything I should add to that?
No, that's correct. That
Okay.
is where the information will be, and we'll spend time, like we said earlier, we'll spend time on that first day, in those first few days, making sure the children know where to find these things and how to read it, and very importantly, who to reach out to if they have a question or they get stuck.
We also have a similar question. Maybe we partly answered it. We can fill it in a bit more around, particularly for sixth graders and new students. Obviously, at the end of the year, when we moved to synchronous, well, when we moved to online learning, we were partway through the year, so we had systems set up. We have a lot of new students, and we have sixth graders. What we know when we're on campus is sixth graders are actually pretty sharp. They're much smarter than most of us, and we know that they'll get on board pretty quickly. But we do need to have a few things in place for them. And so teachers are going to reach out again to them, all students actually, before the day before school starts, to make sure they know where to log in and the information that they need. From there, once they have access to that, and then their advisor will start by making sure that they can get into all of the places that they need to be, and they know how to work when they're on Zoom. And then we'll spend the next week or so working with all students, not just sixth graders, building their confidence at, okay, I know how to log in, I know how to get to Zoom, I know how to get to my calendar, I know how to read all of this. But if you do see your child struggling with that in the first little while, it might take a little while to get into the routine. But also, if you see them struggling and you really think that they need a bit of extra help, just let us know. And their advisor or Carly or one of us can also do a one-on-one session and see where the challenge might be. So they should have all the information they need, but if you think they need a bit of extra help after a couple of days, just reach out to us and let us know. I'm going through some of these other questions here. I think we answered the one about engaging and making friends. Do students need to have a Gmail account to access resources? Maureen, do you want to? I'm going to throw that one to you.
Sure, I was just about ready to answer it, actually.
Great,
I'm typing it. Anyway, yes, AES provides an email account that actually is connected to Google, even though the domain is aes.ac.in. For new students, that information is coming out to you via our main tech office on August 1st. So we are sending your child's username and password to the parents, and then they will have to obviously give the password and username to their child. If you are in Delhi and you're able to pick up your iPad, all of that information is in the Notes app. So students would have that ahead of time. So if you're in Delhi, you would know it perhaps prior to August 1st.
Thanks, Maureen. So August 1 is the magic day.
I might take a brief moment and had a question. There was a question around the advisory program. So advisory, for those that have not experienced it yet with the middle school, what happens is the children are split into small groups by grade level, into small groups of 8 children with a teacher. And that small group will spend the entire year together. And that's one of the first relationships that we're going to start building when they arrive at school. And we would do that if they were on campus as well, so that they have a really nice small group of people that they become very comfortable with. They have a teacher that they become very comfortable with. Some other situations, you might call it homeroom or home base or anything like that. So these groups, particularly in the first week and the first day, their first Zoom meeting will be with their advisory group. They'll get to know those guys. They'll do the getting to know you thing. They'll build relationships and friendships with them. And they will set themselves up for the rest of the week with that advisory group. And then throughout the year, we do a number of programs with them about wellness. We do programs about service. We look at programs about how to balance their time and structure and organizational skills. So it's a great spot for us to be able to help a little bit with their social emotional well-being and help them develop those skills. And also it's a safe space where they have that tight connection with some people that they can always reach out to.
Thanks, Serena. I'm just going back. There's a good question around, not that they aren't all great questions, but there's a different question here around art classes and materials. Certainly in the next couple of days or in the near future, you might hear from an art teacher once your child has their schedule. Not all students will be taking art, for example. If they are taking art, they might actually get a list of some basic things that you might be able to order from Amazon if you're in Delhi. Last year, we did a lot of the art, and by we, I mean our art teachers did a great job of actually providing a lot of things they can do online with art and using digital technology or things that you might just have around the house. So certainly the art teachers will be in contact, but first of all, we need to get the schedules ready. And those schedules will be shared, remember, on the day before school starts. So that's August 3. You'll be able to log into PowerSchool and see the 8 classes that your child will have, and they can also log in and check that out. Do we have any other questions that we can continue to answer? Eugene, just to answer your question around, it's a great question actually, around teachers' availability outside of class time, especially for families in the US or in Europe. That will be published ahead of time, and we're working with teachers now. We know that there's either end of the Delhi day is actually better for those 2 places. And so we're trying to find times that will allow that sort of contact. But that would be published ahead of time. It won't be like, surprise, it's Tuesday, I'll be online today. That will be published ahead of time.
There was a question on there about some of the curriculum. When the children start looking at the subject side, so we talked about the fact that they would be able to see the outline of the work that's coming up. There will also be a summary of that unit, so that you will be able to see what's going to be covered in that unit and those sorts of things. So that will be updated as the groups go, as the class goes through that unit and on to their next one. So there'll be a summary that you'll be able to read about each subject of what they're doing during that time for the unit.
Thanks, Serena. Another question around iPads and connecting with ambassadors. I don't know, Carly, did you want to add anything more to the student ambassadors than what we shared? Connecting new students with student ambassadors.
They will be reaching out to students the first week of school, to my knowledge. I think Serena might know the timeline a bit more.
Yeah, look, there'll be some communication before school starts. They'll most likely, all of the new children will get a welcome email. They'll also get emails from myself. I'll be sending some. And that'll most likely happen on Friday and Monday. And then, of course, when they get to lessons on Tuesday, there'll be opportunities and there'll be special meetings set up so that they can interact, and they'll have someone that will reach out and talk to them from there on. So I would expect by Friday they will be receiving communication from us.
Thanks, Serena. And another question relating more to beyond the classroom. an important part of our program when we're on campus is, of course, our after-school activities. And we had a question around that. We will be actually offering some after-school activities. They won't start until later in August or early September. And actually what we're doing right now is working with the Chennai and Mumbai, the American schools, our sister schools, to actually offer some things that might fall under the banner of what we call ASIAC. Normally that's our sporting league, but we're actually going to offer some other types of things like esports and like almost like a quiz tournament, and of course math counts is in there, but things that kids can connect with online and still build a community and build a community with children who are in a similar situation to them. So there will be after school activities, but they won't be starting yet, and when we get closer to the date we'll share what they are. But we want to get school up and running first, set the routines, and then there'll be some opportunities for children to find things they're interested in and connect with other children online. Wednesday's activities, a good question around the Wednesday. While it's no new work Wednesday, children are still expected to and will be having work that they will be continuing with. And that's why it's important that they connect with their advisor in the morning if they're able to, because their advisor will make sure that they've got their day set up and organized and look at their routine and say, okay, what do you got on today? There'll be things that they need to demonstrate, like their reading, the creative aspect of their day, how they were physically active. They'll also probably have on some of those days, or most of them, is time to connect with teachers. Sometimes teachers will do small group work at that time, or it's a time for the EAL teachers and learning support teachers to connect and follow up. Might also be a time where we offer some, preparing for the assemblies at the end of the week or things like that. So there will be things on the Wednesday children need to do. It's not a free day for them. It just means that there are things that they'll do on that day. We won't be assigning new work and piling it on for them. They'll be finishing things up or preparing for the next part of the week. I'm just looking down there for the question around homeroom teachers. And we don't have homeroom teachers, but it's something similar. We have advisors, and children will learn who their advisors are the same when they access PowerSchool. They'll see their classes and they'll see their advisors. And it's their advisors who'll connect with them first on Tuesday on August 4. They'll spend quite a bit of time with their advisors in the first few days, making sure their schedule's ready, that they can follow it, that they don't have any gaps in their schedule. You've got to make sure that they've got all of their courses in place and they've got the right courses. So there'll be a lot that their advisors doing in the first few days with them, and that should build their community pretty quickly. Just looking to see what else we have there that we can answer. Andy or Anita, do we have anything else that we need to cover? I'm not sure of.
I was just.
Yes, Cynthia, we will consider debate and chess clubs. There's a number of things in the offering there.
Anthea, I was just typing an answer to the question about teachers in India and whether or not they'll be in India by August 4th. And we're really excited that we've actually had our first batch of teachers start coming in. And I'm heading to the airport in about 4 hours to get another batch tonight. So we've had several start to arrive back into Delhi. We've also had our teachers who are needing visas, whether their visas had expired or our new hires that need to secure visas, are starting to find some alternate to traditional routes to get their visas. They're contacting consulates directly, which is typically not our process, but we have had some response and it's been really encouraging. Our first teachers have already gotten approval for their visas for return. So as soon as flights and visas both allow, teachers are making their way back here quickly.
Thanks, Nada. You've had a few late nights there. Much appreciated. Chris, you've got a question there about WOW. Yeah, it's a little too soon to pin down what that will be. We won't be traveling for WOW in the first semester, that's for sure. depending on where we are in terms of on campus and the COVID situation, we've got some tentative plans about how we could offer children some opportunities, even if it's on campus. And one of the big things about WOW being near the beginning of the year is to build that community and build relationships. And so we may be able to do an abridged version of that, or we may look to do something something mini on campus or whatever in the second semester, or as a celebration to the end of the year. But at this point, we really haven't committed to what that will look like. We've just got some what if plans in place, shall we say. Andy, there's a question around the physical Indian government today said schools will open in September. Do we have any update on that? I'm throwing you in the deep end there.
I swim well there, Anthea. Thanks.
Right.
Actually, that's news to me. I'm sitting here in the United States at 6 a.m. And have not looked at the Indian news yet. Nada, do you have any information about that at all?
We did know there was an announcement made at 4 p.m. today, but I was just back channeling with you, Andy, to say that I actually haven't had a chance to process it yet.
Okay, sorry about that.
We knew that there was. We were aware that there was going to be an announcement made today. There was some speculation about whether or not specifics would be released. So we look forward to processing that and making sure that we communicate out to our full community in our next I think in Andy's next director message, kind of what we've learned from that and what we know, and whether if we're also ready to share some decisions related to it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll dig into that as soon as we can today. You're likely tomorrow in India, and figure that out and get some information out as soon as possible so that people can anticipate that on-campus start.
Fantastic, thank you. We don't have any currently open questions. Is there anything from the panelists or Andy? Yep, I think we're pretty close to or over time. So
yes. No, other than I just, I think if you don't mind, Anthea, we can wrap this up. It's been a really great webinar here today. I really appreciate it. Both as professional, seeing the work that has been done by this amazing team, but also I'm a middle school parent, so I sat here in great anticipation, watching all this news come across, and I felt quite comforted to know that my youngest, my baby daughter, is going to be well taken care of as she transitions through her last year in middle school and in a new school. So thank you so much, middle school team. We've had over 400 attendees in our webinars this week. And all I can say is that we appreciate the interest and care that the AES parent community has shown today and in the 2 prior days as we've done these webinars. And we look forward to greeting you very soon, both online in our parent orientation next week, and our new student orientation next week, but also hopefully very, very soon on campus. Thank you very much for coming.
thanks, Andy, and we look forward to meeting you all next week, start of a new school year.